The fact is, Robert Mueller stepped to the microphone today. He closed the investigation, he closed his office, and he closed the case. He was very clear. There is no obstruction. There is no conspiracy whatsoever. He kicked everything over to the DOJ. He didn't have any evidence to try and go after the president on obstruction. And so that's exoneration as well. The fact is, we are today where we were yesterday. After we had 2,800 subpoenas, 500 witnesses, 500 warrants, 40 FBI agents, 19 attorneys, just to find out what you just said, that there is no collusion, and the left just won't let it go. Regardless of how many times we shut this down, regardless of how many times the savior, Robert Mueller, comes out and says, hey, I have no evidence here, the left continues to drive the wedge in between Americans and try to go after this president when they have nothing. And I understand why. I mean, it makes total sense. To drop everything now would admit that the last 2 years of their life would be a complete and total waste. But it also points out the fact that their agenda, which is making America socialist, a Green New Deal that would cripple the economy, infanticide, open borders, all of those things they don't want to be talking about moving into election year. Instead, they'd rather try and focus on attacks on this president. They have no evidence to do it. They have no proof to go after him, but they're going to continue down that road as their stated goal because they have nothing else to offer the American people.
Right. And I think after watching the press conference this morning, after reading, the 400 plus pages of this report, I think if you want to conclude or you want to summarize the press conference this morning in one sentence, it is, we don't know anything more today than we knew yesterday. Mueller said nothing new, gave us nothing new. However, Hogan, the left and the mainstream media, but I repeat myself, are latching on to Mueller's comment about the reason why perhaps he did not recommend charges against the president, talking about the OLC guidelines in the Department of Justice. Democrats in Congress are already gearing up to introduce articles of impeachment against the president because of this. They're saying, well, Mueller obviously was punting this to Congress. Did the president have a reaction to that?
Well, look, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that, as you said, prosecutors prosecute. But the only way they can prosecute is if they have evidence to do so. They didn't have any in this case. And listen, the OLC is clear. But he also made it pretty obvious that even though that was there, it doesn't mean he couldn't recommend prosecution. He didn't do that. Regardless of the fact that Mr. Mueller knows it would go nowhere based on the OLC opinion, he still could have done it to try and tip exactly how he felt about this whole investigation. But the fact is, it appears as though after all of this time and energy and effort and the 1.5 million documents and the $40 million, as you just said, there is nothing to prosecute. And I understand that Democrats are upset because they wanted it to be true so badly. But the fact is, we are today where we were yesterday. The president is going to continue to move forward. And every attack from this point on, from the Democrats on the president, doesn't hurt the president. It hurts the American people. They're the ones who are left without any conversation about infrastructure, for example, or closing our borders, or health care. Democrats have decided they are not going to work with this president on anything and instead work toward impeachment.